Hello, my name is Dr. Suminipoku and welcome back to my channel. I am an integrative therapist and a families practitioner, and I have been watching Love is Blind UK and I had to do a review, but considering that I'm a therapist, I definitely wanted to frame the review of kind of like the relational dynamics through three specific pillars. Looking at conflict and communication. Secondly, looking at how couples manage their insecurities, how individuals manage their insecurities and how their partners reassure them. And then lastly, looking at values and value clashes. So let's delve in with Freddie and Catherine. We're gonna firstly explore communication. I think when we're looking at communication, I'm very interested as a therapist in looking at how people listen with curiosity. Are they speaking honestly? Are they acting integrally? Another thing is that one of the greatest problems when we even look at communication is that people don't tend to listen to understand. They listen to just reply. And it doesn't help in a dating context to really get to know a person when you're just listening to someone to respond. It doesn't display a curiosity and interest in them. What we have to realize is that there are some people who long for, do they desire a relationship with you? And if they're not actually listening for things that you are saying and you're not saying and actually going behind the words, they may miss out on so much non-verbal forms of communication. What is the person displaying in their attitude, in their facial expression, in their body language? Or in the beginning, all you can really hold on to is what the person is saying. But the moment they get out of the pods, it's so interesting to observe how they layer the information that they're seeking out from this individual. So let's start with Freddie and Catherine. And they start off like kind of with a very funny, humorous, flirtatious vibe. Catherine asks, okay, Freddie, like, what do you do? He expresses that he's a funeral director, and she pauses and he was like, hey hon, don't worry, I'm not going to embalm you. And I thought it showcased his sense of humor, him trying to make light of the situation. In the UK, the majority of funeral directors are retired elderly men, and because Freddie is extremely attractive, I think people genuinely will just be taken aback by the fact that this is a profession that he's sought to be in. But what we come to discover and what we come to learn about Freddie is that he really loves to care for people. He sees it as an opportunity to care for somebody's loved one in their vulnerable state, and he takes real pride in his career. Catherine expresses that she's also a dentist. She's a dental nurse. They both go to gym twice a day, so that's something that they've discovered that they can do together. It's a shared interest. They really kind of bonded on that. But I thought it was really nice when they were kind of conversing around the fact that, you know, Freddie's brother has Down syndrome, and then Catherine went on to express that she's actually been teaching Down syndrome children how to swim. And I think what we have to understand as neurotypical individuals is that not many people can be kind to individuals who are on the autistic spectrum, who have Down syndrome, who are neurodivergent. And it was nice to hear that she also had this investment in children with Down syndrome as well, because this is the relationship between Freddie and his brother is one that is truly of importance to him. So in kind of sharing that, I felt like Freddie got a sense of like, oh, okay, this is someone that I could really connect with as well. So early on, you kind of get the sense that Catherine and Freddie have a really good vibe, and actually they may be able to flourish. But as we see down the line, their communication begins to wilt, especially as conflict arises in their value system, their lifestyle, but particularly with the management of insecurities, which we'll get into. Let's go into Demi and Ollie. They are both Londoners, they're both vibe. Obviously I have my biases. I got the sense that they were very comfortable with each other and they had this real friendship energy. Ollie asked her, you know, what would your typical weekend look like? Which I think actually when you're dating is important to know what are your partner's interests. That's another way of kind of figuring out what are your partner's interests, what would they like to do on a weekend. And Demi mentioned that she plays football and she's actually likes to go out on Saturday with the girls, get the drinks going. To which Ollie was like, oh, that sounds great. Ollie mentions that he does boxing, which they were like both vibing on the fact that, oh, okay, we have a shared interest, which I think when we're thinking about future partnerships and the longevity of a long-term relationship, there has to be something that keeps us together, keeps us playful, and having a shared interest is a nice way of getting that need actually met and keeping the fun and the lightheartedness and the friendship thriving in the marriage. Demi then raises that actually, because she does football and she does boxing, that actually sometimes a lot of the guys see her as one of them, which I didn't particularly feel was a necessary statement to make. Sometimes that can position a man to feel as though, okay, then why would I see you as any different if all the closest men in your life have friend-zoned you? But she flipped it quite well by saying, you know what, she's a vibe and they're missing out. And I felt that was a nice twist, because it could have gone a bit left. So when it then came to a conversation about actually what would an ideal first date look like, through what Ollie had heard, he said, I think that you would like an activity date. Considering that, you know, you are quite active, us doing something that is competitive, that has us moving, is more your style. And I love that, because going back to my original point on communication and actually listening with a sense of curiosity and actually listening with an intent to really get to know a person, he's pulled out the information about what she said and has logically come to a conclusion that majority of people will come to, that actually she would prefer maybe an activity date, to which she confirms that yep, she's very competitive, so it might be a little bit heated. She'll try and position you as her man, but she's here to win. And I thought that was nice, because they really got into their bit of banter there. Demi then followed up with another intentional question in the pods about, you know, if I'm sad and if I'm feeling low and I'm not in a good mood, how would you lift me up? How would you handle that? And I think, especially when we are getting to know somebody, sometimes we can get overly excited about the nice things, the fun things, the light-hearted things, but their life comes with trials and tribulations. And so it's also good to have an understanding of what is this person's capacity to support me in my low seasons, and how do they go about that. Ollie, you know, made a bit of a joke and he said that, you know, I would leave you at home. He was playing. But then Ollie then mentions that actually, I feel like you're a person that would need reassurance. You don't strike me as someone who needs space. And Demi confesses that actually in the past she would have said that she's a person that when she's low, she needs space. But really and truly, she's being honest, she needs reassurance. And I love that kind of honesty that she displayed, and that integrity that she displayed by being honest about the real longings that she has. And I think many a times we do not want to be vulnerable around the people that we love, because they either see us as the strong friend, the helper friend, and to be vulnerable and to be weak and to be low it's just not the position that you've played in the dynamic, and you want to maintain that image that you have it all together. But also sometimes we don't actually want to put our true longings out there because we're afraid that it's not going to be met. So why actually vocalize that I'm feeling low and I'm feeling unsupported, I'm feeling quite insecure today, when really and truly people around me haven't showcased that they can handle that side of me. Or actually, if I put that out there, they're gonna be like, suck it up and let's keep moving. And considering that, you know, Demi has described that she is perceived as one of the guys, I get the sense that she's around a lot more masculine energy that's like, okay, pull your socks up, let's keep it moving, okay, let's keep it moving, as opposed to being able to be and exist in her femininity. Another element of their communication that I really enjoyed was the development of Demi's vulnerability throughout the pods. You know, Demi asked Ollie, do you want a family? Ollie mentioned that he does, but he does not hang his whole happiness on having a family, to which was reassuring to Demi, because we find out later down the line that she actually does have endometriosis, which makes it difficult for her to have children. But she started off with gauging where he's at and seeing how he handles that information, and then later on we see her really getting, as her feelings are developing, greater sense of emotional security in the dynamic with him. She feels like she needs to share this burden or this weight that she has on her that, you know, she hasn't really expressed just yet, about maybe her being unable to have kids. Unfortunately, Ollie expressed that that does not affect his feelings about her. He really does love her and care for her, and if they do get to have children, it will be a bonus. Demi then goes in episode 3 to write a personalized card for him on his birthday, which sends him over the edge. So we're really seeing full-on development. She's being really expressive. She's being creative with it. And I think, she provides him with the love crystal. She has lemon cake balloons all set up in his pod for his birthday. And he just felt really loved and appreciated by her. And I think that is what led to Ollie feeling like, actually, this is the person that I want to be in, contrary to Catherine, to which their conversations was quite surface level and very flirty and more on the sensual, sexual, flirtatious vibe. He felt that there was more depth in this dynamic, a greater friendship in this dynamic, and that's what led to the proposal. Now, we go on to the love triangle. Sam, Nicole, and Benaya. So, in the beginning, we have this dynamic with Nicole and Benaya that seems like it's really interesting. They both have a very interesting way of life, and they connect on some core fundamental values. I think Nicole mentioned, she lives her life in accordance to the system of understanding of body, spirit, and mind. And Benaya was just so taken aback by that, because actually that is the fundamental principles or values that he possesses, that actually we're these spirit beings and we need these 3 elements of ourselves to be united and aligned as one. They were very expressive about the development of their connection. Benaya would come in occasionally just raising the fact that, I was actually thinking about you yesterday, and I love that. I think the beauty of actually not seeing the person is we really have to use our words to display to the other person where we are at emotionally. And I think it allows for the relationship to develop at a pace which is, I feel like it allows for the relationship to mutually develop, because you kind of learn very quickly, because if the person is using the words, you kind of learn like, okay, this person is really feeling a strong connection to me right now just by what they are verbalizing. And one thing that I really, really appreciated was that even though Nicole mentioned that this is her life ethics, this is the ethos of her life, Benaya was curious enough to be like, actually, what exactly is your interpretation of this? Because you've put this out there and I feel like this is something that I fundamentally agree with, but actually, what is your interpretation? Let's get a little bit more specific about what you believe about body, spirit, soul, and mind. Okay, so contrary, and I think actually this is Sam, Benaya, and Nicole is a perfect examination of just different forms of listening, active listening, and just listening to respond. So Sam, I felt like his conversations were not that intentional. Even when he was conversing with Jasmine, it was very surface level, like, do you like to stroke your boyfriends? Like, I just felt like, we really want to get to the core of who you are, what you want your life to look like, and what kind of future are you trying to build with me. And I just didn't get the sense that he knew himself enough to get to the core of the matter and to hold depth in conversation. It was reflected as well, specifically with his dynamic with Nicole. He asked her, do you train? She says that she's very into yoga, and he said that he also does yoga, but he's not really flexible. He then asked her, are you big on family? Nicole responds, you can choose your family. Now, for me, when I heard her say that, that is not an average response. That requires a little more push. I feel like it required an expansion. What do you mean that you choose your family? Like, what does that mean to you? Because ultimately, we don't get to choose our biological family. But we do get to choose the tribes that we feel like are more aligned with us and that provide us with the love and support that a family system can offer. So I would have been more intrigued, or I would have requested for more information. Sam doesn't actually pull on that. He then says, well, you can also choose your husband. I just felt like it was a deviation from something of substance and a real understanding of who Nicole was. Secondly, he then goes on to say, if you saw me, you might be impressed. again, removing the conversation from an understanding of the person that you are getting to know and getting to understand. Attraction, physical attraction matters, but I felt like, considering the experiment they are in, we're not here to talk about what we look at this point. We're trying to build ultimately our emotional connection with each other and to develop emotional intimacy and understanding of who we are, what our likes and wants are, our fundamental values. So talking about, how good I look, and that being the foundation in which I decide whether I'm going to pick you or not, I just felt was very lame. Nicole then again tries to inject some depth into the conversation. She's like, you know what? If you turn 80 and you are to write a book, tell me what your life story would be. I thought, Nicole, that's a really good question to really kind of unfold the vision that he has for his life as a whole, looking at his career, his lifestyle, the kind of family that he wants to build, who he becomes as a person, what influence and impact that he wants to create in the world, the mistakes and the learnings along the way. I just felt like that was such a good question. He then again just misses the mark for me a little bit. Actually, a whole lot, by saying, there will be an amazing love story of two people who met. When we are dating, we have to surrender the desire to be liked so much that we're not contortioning ourselves and formulating stories and narratives that aren't actually true, so that we can be validated by the person that we're speaking to. I think for me, it just fell flat, and Nicole also vocalized it. You know what, I just feel like you're just telling me what I want to hear. Sam then goes into, a victim state, feeling like he is not the one that's chosen. I don't know what people want from me. I just want to be loved like a kid. I just want to... It demonstrated that there was a huge missing of the mark in his ability to be self-aware. Because yes, we can project out there that people are reading us wrong, but are they really reading us wrong? Why is there no accountability in what we are projecting? I just felt like there was a huge misalignment with who he actually was. I don't feel like he's quite clear on who he actually is, and it shows. So he shows up into the room becoming what everybody else wants him to be. And he's placed so much emphasis on the physical and in preparation for the show, and not on his sense of self. To this, Nicole then feels like, actually, I have a stronger connection with Benaya, but I need to clarify something that is extremely important. How serious is this individual about marriage? Benaya expresses that he's thought of a future together, which again was reassuring, but he expressed that at this stage it's quite difficult to say that, just based on our connection, that you're the one. And I feel like that sowed a little bit of anxiety in Nicole. She has previously been married, and so she really came into this experiment not wanting to make that mistake again, and wanting a partner who was going to be on the exact same page as her, knowing with full confidence that you are about me because I am about you. And with that anxiety, it really fueled a concern that Benaya wasn't in the same place as she was, which we come to realize that wasn't the case. It is difficult based on the time pressure and you're speaking to all these people, to come to a full assurance so early on. But she desperately wanted that. And I feel like this was a classic case of intensity over consistency. The next episode 2, Sam comes in with the gifts of the bracelet. You've got the rose in the room, and he states that he doesn't want to sit in the booth with anybody else. And she's just like, he feels very strongly about her. And when you've just spoken to someone who's sown a seed of doubt, and you've come and met someone who has expressed this undying love for you, again, if you're not careful on the dating scene, especially when you're dating multiple people, we fall into the trap of intensity over consistency. My problem with when Nicole fell for Sam is that I couldn't quite gather from the clips that we watched what the premise was. other than the fact that he was sure about her. And even that assurance, based on the questions that he's asked, and based on the responses that she's provided, and based on the questions that she's asked, and I just was like, what has brought you to this kind of confidence? You know, it wasn't clear what made Sam this confident about Nicole, that he really wanted to be with her, apart from the fact that there was a connection and he was being validated in some way by her continually going on the dates with him. So we have to watch out for this issue here. Fundamentally, when you're trying to get to know a person, you want to rely heavily on the values and the standards, the lifestyle that they have, and the life that they're looking to build, because that's the core and that's the framework that we're working with. Then we layer it on with, you know, preferences, interests. However, that whole situation got hit with a quick, got steered to the left, because Benaiah came and confessed that he felt like Sam wasn't here for all the right reasons. He felt like through what Sam was expressing in the male area, like he didn't feel like he was here for genuine reasons. And actually, as a man that did love Nicole, he didn't want to see her heart get hurt by a man that really wasn't serious about the process. Now, that's something that we're gonna have to really unpack, and I haven't yet watched the reunion, but it did showcase that Benaiah had a value of honesty, because that was a huge compromise to his friendship with the other guys. It also was a compromise to his relationship with Nicole, because she's a grown adult that can make her own choices, and it can be quite belittling when you're providing extra information around someone that she's also talking to. Nonetheless, Nicole decides that she's going to go forward with Sam, and that whole proposal for me was extremely uncomfortable to watch for various reasons. But let's speed on ahead. We get Jasmine and Bobby, who, you know, Bobby is a luxury shopping guide. Jasmine is a mental health nurse. And Jasmine inquires whether, you know, his life of doing luxury shopping on cruises, how practical is this? Where are you? Are you going to be traveling a lot? Because I'm looking for someone that I can do life with in proximity, baby. And I think those kind of conversations, and it's something that was also mirrored in the conversation with Sabrina and Stephen, whereby Stephen lives in London and Sabrina lives in Bristol, are so important. We can't be building emotional connections with people, become vulnerable with them, only to realize that practically this may not work out. This may fundamentally not be what I want, to be with a partner that's away all the time, or to have to be moving around. Bobby explained that he's actually in a place whereby he's willing to settle down, and he really does want to start a family. So he wants to move away from that lifestyle, which was reassuring to Jasmine, because she seems like she wants to remain in London and wants to start a family. When it came to Jasmine and Bobby, I felt like their conversations were very intentional. It laid a very strong foundation of their understanding of each other and what they were looking for. Jasmine was asking really thoughtful questions, and for me, it made it clear that the two of them, they were here for marriage. So she asked, you know, what is important to you in a relationship? There's so many people that I as a therapist, I sit and I talk to so many clients, and they will be in a relationship confused as to why something is of priority to the person that they're with. And this is something that can easily be asked before. What is important to you in a relationship? What do you require in a relationship? Bobby goes on to say that he longs for connection on all levels. He wants to be with someone who is not just a partner, but really kind of like a friend. He's very caring and empathetic and family orientated. He's very, very close to his mother and would want someone who is as family orientated as him. Jasmine goes on to express that she's very close with her mother too, and that was something that they fundamentally bonded on. In episode 2, Jasmine takes it up a notch, and she's like, okay, you come from a fatherless home, and I know what that did to my brother. Now I want to understand, what is the impact of not having a father, or what was the impact of not having a father in your life? As a therapist, I think I was like dancing at this point. Family of origin fundamentally crafts us up. It shapes us. It molds our way of thinking. So when people ask family of origin questions, I just think 10 points to you. When you're specifically looking at men who haven't grown up with their fathers, who haven't had a model of what it is to look after someone and how that shapes their mindset, we need to get the details now. If this is something that you don't know, Bobby, I need you to become more curious about it because it's playing out in your life in some way, shape or form. And Bobby expressed that, him and his father just do not speak. This is something that is not of choice. His father didn't reach out to him. It means that he had to search for mentors in his life. He had to search for male models, and he had 3 cousins that he was close to. One that really took him under the wing, I think his name was Danny, and supported him and was available to him just man to man, like as he's growing, being able to ask him questions. But unfortunately Danny passed away, and that was something that really broke his heart. It was like literally losing his father. And Jasmine expressing that she wants to be a safe space to Bobby. She really wants to be a space whereby he can feel free to be vulnerable, and Bobby gets the sense that he has the permission to express himself and feel at peace doing so, not worried about the fear of judgment or worried that he will not feel emotionally secure. And I felt the strength of their bond building through that piece of vulnerability. Now let's go on to Maria and Tom as they communicate in the pods. I got the sense that they also have this really friendly element, just where you've just got a good friendship with someone, which is found a key for a good thriving relationship. What other traits are you looking for in a wife? Maria was like, she was just getting straight into that. Maria asked Tom, okay, you've mentioned that self-development is important to you. Why? Again, curiosity. Let's go deeper. Let's take it to another layer. Tom has a fear of being abandoned, and Maria mentioned that she had lost her father and that was so tough for her because of their relationship. They both were very kind and gentle with each other when they were expressing these very vulnerable elements of themselves or parts of themselves. But one key thing in their communication that Maria was very forthcoming in the beginning, to which when we discussed later on about values, was clear, was that Maria was comfortable with a more traditional family setup. Tom, who asked, what would you like our marriage to look like? And Maria was like, oh, I don't mind a dynamic whereby it is more traditional. I spend more time looking after the children. And Tom was like, that is not, I'm not really looking for a stay-at-home wife or mother. And Maria's like, hold up. Like, I'm not saying that I'm never going to work, but in the earlier stages of our children's life, I would want to be there to not miss some of the key moments of their development. I would want to nurture them. And we come to really understand that, from us going to see the family and watching the show, that she comes from a Moroccan family, and these are some of the values that are instilled from when she grew up and the dynamic that she has seen with her mother and her father and even her brother-in-law and sister. So she made this clear early on. And that's why I wasn't too keen with his reasoning for not actually getting married to her, because she made this clear from day dot. Sabrina and Stephen, when I say they are a 10 out of 10 for intentional communication, they're both very mature, just, even with their ages, and their mindsets solid. I loved the questions that they asked. Stephen asked Sabrina, what makes you you? What exactly are you looking for? What about children? Let's not wait till down the line to get to the core of the person that we are even trying to get to know. And I felt like the evolution and the growth of their relationship was pretty much a counter to the fact that they were so intentional with their communication, and they were both in the same space whereby they were willing to do what it took to be in a committed dynamic. They wanted marriage, and they were committed to marriage, and they were committed to each other. And even the logistics of relocating from Belfast to London, it was a little bit airy in the end. We weren't quite clear on where they actually stood with that, but Sabrina was clear that she would be willing to move. Now, a key thing that we're going to now explore is managing our insecurities. So managing insecurities is the next pillar that I'm going to look at. How the couples or the individuals manage their insecurities and how their partners show them. Managing insecurities is the next thing that I'm actually going to explore in the relational dynamics. specifically how the individuals were exhibiting their insecurities, how they managed their insecurities, and how their partners reassured them or actually perpetuated the insecurity that they had in the first place. Managing insecurities is so crucial in a relational dynamic because essentially unchecked insecurities can lead to jealousy, it can lead to a constant sense of doubt and neediness, and then ultimately a strain in the relational dynamic. So when insecurities are not addressed, it creates a constant cycle of just mistrust, miscommunication, and it erodes the foundation of the relationship to begin with. But when insecurities are managed well, it fosters open communication and vulnerability. It develops the emotional stability and the connection that is built by the couples, and it allows both individuals in the relationship to just feel secured and valued and wanted. So let's start with Demi and Ollie. Now, with Demi, she had expressed that physical attraction is important to her, but it's like she wants to look at her man and be like, you're good, you're tasty. But she doesn't want to put it on a pedestal that it doesn't need to exist in. But she doesn't, so Demi did express that physical attraction is important to her, but she's not going to put it on a pedestal because fundamentally that emotional connection and having the shared core values is what holds the relationship. But there is a requirement for physical attraction. She made us aware that there are some insecurities around her physicality and her weight. She says, sometimes I gain 2 stone and I lose stone, but nonetheless, I am still me. She then expressed that, she likes to eat and she needs to be with someone who makes her feel a little bit small. So she wants to be a little bit dainty with her man. She doesn't want to look like powering him physically, which for a lot of women that is the case. I think it even represents itself in the desire for the taller man and all of that. Like you feel that sense of being petite. So it wasn't anything out of the norm. When they went away on their honeymoon, Demi did this thing where she was like, look at the beautiful view. Again, she's complimenting Ollie, and Ollie was like, stop it. This is my job. I'm the one that's meant to be affirming you. Compliments both ways are unnecessary. Men should be complimented too. But there was something about that whole scene whereby I got the sense that she felt like she wasn't as deserving of him just based off her appearance. He was very affirming of her appearance when they met for the first time and he proposed. He was very affirming. He's like, oh, she's got the curves in all the right places. He was very affirming. But even the comment around the bath being small, I did start to see that she was expressing her insecurities around her body and her weight. And she then goes on to say that, if I saw him in real life or on the street, I would be like, oh, this man is good looking, but I would walk right past him because I don't think he would blink my way or he would even look at me. So we got this sense that she felt fortunate to be here. Like, it's nice to know that he desires me, but I would have never thought that I was his type. That kind of laid the bedrock for what the encounter with all the other individuals all the other couples, when they were now to meet up. Because when Catherine walked through with Freddie, we got the sense that, okay, she got the hint that maybe actually Catherine may be Ollie's type. She raised the fact that she felt confident in their dynamic, but you may be threatened by the fact that he might see someone who actually is his type. And Ollie went headstrong and was very expressive through his body language, through his communication, that actually Catherine is very attractive, very beautiful. When she had pulled him for a chat, I felt like that conversation could have been kept a little bit more succinct. You've proposed to a woman. This is someone that you've had a connection with in the past. She's coming to address the fact that she actually was the one that ended it with you, but you've gone back to the guys and said that you've ended it with her. Okay, let's wrap it up. Then going into the fact that, you're exactly what I thought you would look like. You're very, you being attractive. I just felt like that was too much. The laughing, the cackling together, it was unnecessary. And after that whole conversation, you didn't go back to your woman to affirm her, to provide her with that sense of assurance. We are good, we are together. You were roaming around talking to the guys. And so we saw the complete decline of Demi's confidence in that whole scene. You start to see that she's an internal processor. She's in her mind and she's trying to communicate to Jasmine that she doesn't want to, she's not bothered, you know, it's fine. But we can see that she is withdrawing emotionally. She feels slightly threatened in the dynamic. And I felt like Ollie could have done a little bit more to reassure her in that instance. He can't help himself. He's quite impulsive. I don't know whether it's the ADHD. We have another scene whereby all the cast come together. They're having their drink. We meet Charlotte for the first time, who's absolutely stunning. And Aaron comes to speak to Bobby and Ollie, and he's like, you know what, do you guys think that you could stick to one woman? And, you know, they're all nodding their heads. Bobby especially, head over heels for Jasmine. And then Ollie's like, we're good, whatever. He then pulls Aaron to the side and says, Charlotte is berserk and sublime, but, you know, Demi is good. I just felt like that was extremely inappropriate for a man that is about to be married. We can observe beauty and leave it there. Oh yeah, she's beautiful. There's loads of beautiful women. Keep it there. Sublime and berserk, and that emphasis there in the early stages of a relationship, I just felt like that was not bolstering a sense of confidence in the woman that you are with. Because if she's to watch that, I don't know whether as a woman I would have felt comfortable with that kind of commentary, considering that you are about to marry me soon. Then we're getting close to the wedding and then you go ghost. Demi is here expressing that, you know, this is a time whereby you guys are going to be separated and you want to see how you're going to behave in this time. She's really looking out for how with distance he manages distance with her, and he barely communicates with her. So at the altar, when Ollie was like, why don't we get married? Honestly, I felt like he was relieved, but I was like, but you went ghost before the wedding. How is that meant to reassure me? This is the time whereby you're meant to message me, check up on me. Is everything okay? How are you feeling? I'm here. I can't wait for our wedding. She doesn't hear from you. And when you give a woman enough time to begin to think, I don't feel very safe with this person, you lose. Because she meditated and she thought upon, actually, there is still room for work here in this dynamic. We're not there yet. A man that is about to get married to me should make me feel a little bit more reassured and confident in the commitment that he's about to make. And unfortunately, the partner that I hasn't done so. So we have to be, it's so important that we are finding ways to erase that sense of doubt in the connection. How are you reassuring the person? How are you making the person feel valued? How are you showcasing that you truly understand them and that you're for this commitment if you're not being expressive with your words, if you're not showcasing with your actions and your physical affection? I mean, you leave me to guess and hope. And that's not a position anyone wants to be in, feeling like they're not 100% sure they even like them like that. One thing that we began to really see is that Catherine has a lot of trust issues. She is a child that was adopted, that has framed and shaped her outlook on life. At the end of the day, when you haven't got parents who decided to choose you, look after you, there is always this sense of abandonment that will always kind of exist, and it requires a level of intentionality to develop your sense of self-worth and value, but also to develop trust with other people. Because if the people who have brought me into this world weren't even trustworthy to take care of me, then how can I trust the other person or a person who expresses that they're interested in me? So you start to see her insecurities flare up and progressively wither the relationship. There was a lot of projecting that she did on Freddie, which also began to wither at Freddie's sense of self-confidence and assurance and belief in the relationship that they had. So one thing that I had observed was Catherine kind of left the conversation with Ollie in the pods a little bit ambiguous, and I got the sense that she was trying to again keep the door open in case the shoe drops with Freddie. When she then had the conversation with Ollie around who broke up with him and la 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 la, that thing. There was a lot of flirty banter that I felt was inappropriate. I got the sense that she felt very validated by the fact that Ollie had now seen her and he overtly was attracted to her and she was feeding off of their energy. When her and Freddie then now go back into the room to kind of discuss the night, you know, and express the fact that she's had this conversation, but she did ask this question, like, does it bother you? You know, does it faze you at all that I'm talking with, or I had the chat with Ollie? And Freddie was like, you know what, it's not a nice feeling, the guy that you had a connection with in the pods, that you're there laughing with him and it appears that you're flirting with him, but you know, I'm certain about you, Catherine. And I picked up on that because I got the sense that she was trying to see if he was jealous, whether he was possessive over her, whether he really cared. And it's a manipulative way to kind of observe whether the person is interested in you or not. Another way that Catherine actually displays her insecurities, that she looks out for the negative element in Freddie. And you know, history and experiences that she's had has shaped her worldview. But she starts off with, like, I believe it was episode 5, when Freddie was like, oh, he has a small circle of friends, and she was like, oh, do you have any crazy exes that are gonna come at me? And he was like, no. She's like, no, I'm being serious. Like, do you have any crazy exes that are gonna come my way, that are gonna threaten our dynamic? She's very sensitive to bonds and relationships being threatened and destroyed by other people, primarily because she has been cheated on several times. So she does ask Freddie, you know, have you ever cheated before? And Freddie expresses with honesty that he has. You already see a dip in her confidence just through her facial expression, and he reassures her by saying that I'm head over heels over you, and despite the fact that, you know, I have cheated, I really want to make the effort to reassure you that that's never going to be the case. That was literally set ago. I've really learned from that experience. Freddie did take that level of vulnerability very personal. He felt very bad and guilty. He even had a conversation with Stephen about it, about how bad he felt. He didn't want the opinion of it to change, but ultimately, when you have been unfaithful in the past, it provides information about someone who is forging an alliance in a relationship with you in the present, that there may be a risk of this happening again. She expresses, you know, to cheat, always a cheat. Now, with this trust issue, you have one or two choices. You can decide, actually, I'm in a position to be with someone who's cheated before and call it quits. Or 2, I'm gonna develop my trust with you through open communication and transparency, offer more of my heart to you and see how you handle it. And based on how you treat me and based on how you go about the progression of our emotional intimacy, I can make a judgment about whether I feel safe enough to be in this dynamic. However, what we start to see is that actually she starts to nitpick at him. She starts to get very negative. She comments on the fact that, you know, he's too goofy. It almost like she kind of got the ick and she didn't know how to really express it. She's kind of getting the ick around his personality. She asked Freddie, like, do you trust me fully? And he's like, yeah, like I trust the connection that we have. But she's honest in the fact that this may take a little bit more time for me. For me, I do trust you, but you know, it's a lot harder because of my past experiences. Later on, she does apologize with how her mood dipped and how the interactions changed. But down the line, we start to see again Catherine's way of seeking validation when she feels like she's not being assured. So Charlotte, again, who is fabulous, who is gorgeous, who shook all the tables at the meetup with all of the cast, comes through, but also Sam comes through, and Catherine goes and says, well, Sam looks exactly like my ex, like he looks like my ex. Freddie hears this and he just kind of turns away, feeling like, that is not a good feeling. And then she's like asking him, oh, like, what are your thoughts? And everybody here, she said, you know, Freddie then goes, oh, well, Charlotte is nice. Charlotte is attractive, and Catherine is just blown away. Oh, you just help yourself, you're doing too much. She's like, I heard you the first time, and you know, you saying that, how does that make me feel? But Freddie's like, well, you've just been going on about how Sam is your ex, like looks like your ex, Sam looks like your ex. Like, how is this fair that I can't freely express what I'm seeing and observing, but the moment I showcase like my thoughts on what's happening, I am being criticized for it? Catherine then takes that as, well, a bit of rejection. She goes up to Sam and starts overtly flirting with him, says that, you know, you can come round to London, like I live in London, I can become your safe space if you're ever in town. When she feels unaffirmed, she seeks validation from other people. And I just think it's more about being open and honest with the partner that you're with about how you're feeling, but also asking yourself, what is triggering these feelings? Is it my partner, or is it my own fears of abandonment? Am I being proportionate in my response in this instance? And if you feel justified, you need to be very vocal and clear about that. But if you don't feel justified, you have to sit down with yourself and manage those insecurities that may have come from your upbringing, may have come from your previous experiences, and proportion it accordingly, or else we will continually push our partner away who we clearly love and care about just because we're constantly projecting. Then we go on to Jasmine and Bobby. Jasmine speaks of the fact that, you know, social media has been a huge hindrance to her in the thriving of her relationships. The guys that she's been dating have been following other women, DMing other women, texting other women, doing whatnot. And this is a problem that many people are facing in this current society, whereby we're exposed to so much choice, such a minefield of so much option, and things that were women and men that we're constantly stimulated by or attracted to that we're seeing. And if you're not careful with your social media use, there can be a lack of boundaries in the respect that you are displaying to your partner just by the kinds of women that you're following, the kinds of conversations that you're having with women online or with men online. And so she said that, you know, I had to be that kind of woman whereby I was asking my partner, who are you following, who have you liked? And she doesn't want to open that place in her mind anymore. She wants to be with a partner that's going to make her feel affirmed. She pulls up her evidence and she's just like, you're here, you do music, I know you're in that field, and you're here stroking a woman, doing body like a dance. I need to know where you are with all of this. Bobby explains that was a while ago. I knew that this was going to come up. I'm glad that you've opened it up, but I'm here to be transparent. I'm here to be forthcoming about who I am today and what is acceptable now that I move forward in this relational dynamic. And I am pretty much committed to you, so there's nothing to worry about, and I am not interested in anyone but you. And it can be the smallest of things, just being very affirmative with your words and being very affirmative with your actions and how consistent you are, and that can enable our partners to feel like, oh, I can trust you, I can feel safe with you. In the event that we bring our insecurities and our worries and you are very dismissive, or you act like, oh, it's not a big deal, you're not bolstering the confidence in you as a person, but in the relationship and your commitment. So I really liked Bobby's response. Now on to Tom, Maria and Tash. Now, Tom and Maria were, you know, they had their blips, but I think there was one conversation that I wanted to speak on that illuminated to me that Tom still was on a bit of a fence. He has the opportunity to meet up with Tash for the first time, and he expresses that he thought that she was going to look a little bit more geeky. He had even raised in the pods that Maria was a woman that he felt sexually attracted to just by listening to her. So he had a specific vision of what Tash was going to look like, and now seeing that she's a lot more attractive, that instigated a lot of thoughts and it opened windows potentially in his heart. But I felt like, as an individual who's about to be married, I don't know whether it's appropriate to have a conversation with someone that I had a connection with, mentioning one, that, oh, me and Maria have had a few disagreements, as you would expect. You know, it's difficult because we've had a connection and I'm not 100% sure that we are going to say yeah. Tash then goes on to express that she really cared for him. She feels like he's an incredible person, and you know, it's not easy for her feelings just to just like that. But she's happy for him. She did fall for him. So past tense, I had fallen for you in the pods. It was real. But Tom then takes the message back to say that she had dropped the L-bomb, which wasn't true. And because he had realized that he had overstepped his boundaries with what he had communicated, he now wanted to lay more of a blame on Tash. But I guess it was an intense experience. You know, you forge these connections, you're about to get married, you're seeing someone that you had a connection with. But I felt like he didn't handle that with complete honesty, and he should have kept that conversation a little bit more succinct. The same way I feel about Ollie and Catherine's conversation. You don't need to go to your ex-partner or the person that you've had a connection with to start expressing the downfalls or the mishaps in your relationship, and especially to say that you're not 100%. I just didn't think that was necessary. As a man who's about to get married, you have to present a united front to everybody, because now you're lowering the territories and you're opening room for the fiery darts to enter into your relationship. Now, a big point of contention is this pillar of fundamental value. As I've mentioned throughout this video, it's huge. It's a foundation that we need to build upon, because ultimately that is what shapes the person's worldview, their way of thinking, their way of life. And one thing we saw with Tom and Maria was the clash between the quote-unquote provider man / the more egalitarian 50-50 dynamic. Maria has come from a Moroccan family with a setup whereby the men in the home tend to take care of their wives from a provider stance. So they're almost like they're the breadwinners in the relationship. They carry that load, and the women tend to look after the children and nurture the home and look after their husband. And that was a huge point of contention, because there was one point whereby Maria had mentioned that she did not expect to pay for the ice cream that Tom had, been like that situation. I don't think that so again, there is expectations in relationships, and sometimes when you've come from a family of origin whereby things are a certain way, we expect that people are going to operate in that way. And when getting to know someone, you expect absolutely nothing. You communicate everything. Maria, from what was shared, had said, "Oh, I'm going to get the ice cream," but she had expected that Tom was going to pay for it. And when he was like, "Oh, you get that one," she was a little bit thrown off, because she wants to be in a dynamic where she feels taken care of. That's what she's seen. Her father has looked after her. She's seen the relationship with her sister and her brother-in-law be one with a provider man and a woman who nurtures the home and looks after the children. She expressed this very clearly early on in the pods, and I guess Tom was a little bit taken aback and startled, because that's not what he's looking for. There is a certain lifestyle that he wants, and one that he expects that his partner will prefer to be in, and I think he's made that clear, even with around him feeling like, "Oh, you being a makeup artist, that wouldn't be my go-to, because I work really hard. I have an assumption that I want to be with a woman that is also quite ambitious, and I don't really attach makeup artists with the ambitious woman that I'm looking to have. I want a strong woman. I want a strong independent woman." And even when he decides that he's not going to get married, he made note of the fact that he wanted his daughter to be someone that was going to be strong and independent, and he didn't want his son to think that he was going to have to be paying for everything. Now, I think family of origin plays into that, because he made mention and he made note of the fact that if my mom, was told that she wasn't going to have to work, she would be like, absolutely not. It was something to that effect. And when you're a man and you've seen a single mother do it all, in comparison to when you are a man who's seen a man take a lot of the load, you grew up with completely different perspectives about what women should be and what women are capable of doing. And the question is, would your mom have wanted actually a better support system? Would she have wanted the load to be lighter for her? Potentially, we don't know. But it's all about what we've been exposed to and what we've seen, and this shapes how we feel like things should be. So those core fundamentals of even the expectations of roles within marriage should really be ironed out. I don't understand why that was not really ironed out between the two of them before they got to the altar, but it showcases the importance of these kinds of conversations. We also see the issue of fundamental values and lifestyle clashes with Freddie and Catherine is not a problem. Extroverted and introverted people can be together. But when it comes to what our lifestyle is going to look like, he kept mentioning that, you know, she's very bougie, she's very high end, and she's downplaying this so that she can be with me. But I don't know if I have the capacity to maintain that for her. And that's a realistic thing. We have to be sincere and honest about our lifestyle, because this is not something that's going to be temporal. I'm doing life with you to the end. So thank you so much for listening to the review. There's so many little bits that I didn't even get to pick up on, but just from what I gathered from the show, I wanted to throw something. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know how you felt about how things were handled, how things were dealt with, what you liked about this particular season, what you didn't like, what relational couple you thoroughly enjoyed. I didn't talk about Sabrina and Steven too tough because they were just sweet. So I didn't give them too much time of day in this review because I was really kind of teething the relational dynamics and difficulties and things to learn from. But I'd love to hear your thoughts below. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.